There is a storm brewing in Osun State following the massive termination of appointments by newly elected Governor Ademola Adeleke. Upon assumption of office, the governor allegedly sacked 12,000 workers employed by his predecessor, Adegboyega Oyetola. He dethroned 3 monarchs and abolished the state of Osun appellation created by former Governor Rauf Aregbesola. Opinions are now divided as to whether Governor Adeleke's actions are in the interest of his people or if he is on a course of vendetta. Joining me in the studio is public affairs analyst and Ogun West NNPP senatorial candidate Oluwafemi Aino. Good morning.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Good morning.
Now, reactions, divergent reaction. Even the governor has come out to say that he did not sack anybody. He only set up a review committee to review appointments, to review every decision that was made. Those were what he pointed out to. Even for the monarch, he said that he did not, he was trying to review the appointments as monarchs for the various localities that they came up with. But then, there are those who are now saying he needs to take it easy, take slow, as those who drive will say, take it easy. It seems you are moving faster than you should, and that perhaps he's on course of a vendetta, and that it may not be in the interest of the people. And even in his speech at his inauguration, he said that some of the things his predecessor did were not in his own interest. And so there are those who felt perhaps predecessors sometimes set booby traps for those who take over from them. What do you make of this?
Well, it's quite unfortunate that we are in this situation. But first and foremost, any action, if you become the governor of a state, whatever you want to do must be in the public interest. That is the starting point.
Right.
And whether you should not go on a vengeance mission, whereby you are getting your own pounds of the flesh. And the problem with this governor, Adeleke, is, in as much I could see where he's coming from, and I could understand his explanation, but I do agree with people who are reading meanings to his action.
Right.
Because he seems to have been misadvised. If you are setting up, if you are setting up a review committee to review the appointment, to review the selection of a king, then what's the point of the executive order which you assign? There is no need for that.
Right.
Number one, you either wait for that committee to present you with the report. Once you do that, then you can come up with a white paper or whatever. If not, then you take a decision thereafter. But what you have here, you have a governor, a new governor, signing executive order, dismissing people. That, look, all those recruited from this period to this period, all of you are going to be dismissed. That's not the way to go. Because, you see, issues relating to employment is a contractual relationship.
Absolutely.
You work here. You have a letter of employment. You have a contract of employment.
Right.
If you look in that contract of employment, there is a termination clause there. Circumstances in which we could terminate your employment. Number one, if you are caught fighting at work, we could sack you. If we realize that you lie in your CV, that you work in one place, whereas you didn't work there, we could. So it's not an exhaustive list. Then, if you look at most contracts of employment, you will see these are the termination clauses and these are termination reasons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But there are certain things you don't envisage that will crop up, which you cannot put in the contract. Take, for instance, you employ somebody to work with you. You won't know that person will go to Oshodi Motor Park and start fighting one day. And then in the end, because he worked with you and you are well known, when the media wants to report, they are not going to say, Veronica caught fighting with Motor Park boys. They will say TVC employee. So for bringing the organization to disrepute, we could terminate your employment on that basis. Yes. And the problem with this case is that if you want to employ somebody to work for the government of Osun State, there is a procedure. They have a civil service recruitment rules. And if these people, they were employed or recruited without following proper procedure, or they were hastily appointed because there is no budgetary allocation that
Which he mentioned.
which he mentioned,
Yes.
then you see those are fertile grounds for you to dismiss them. It is, you don't need any executive order to do that at all. Right. And that is where the abuse and the whole thing becomes very controversial. Because what you are doing is that it's not impossible. And I could understand the justification. Because number one, if you, on the twilight of your administration, you start recruiting appointing 12,000 people, promoting people to be permanent secretary and what have you, and there is no budgetary allocation that will cater for their wages, definitely the incoming government is going to have a lot of issues. And then what we need to do, if I come in as the new governor, is to say, look, all these appointments, we are going to review them, and there may well be, we will take a decision at the end of the day. And what the governor should have done, there's no need for this. If you set up that review committee, let them come out with the report, and they will give you good reasons why you should dismiss all those people who were hurriedly appointed. Now, on the issue of all these kings, you see, when you want to take this sort of decision, anytime you are taking a decision, either to dismiss or to invalidate any selection, whatever what you need to do. And the Supreme Court has said that in a case called Awoyemi also, that you have to be fair, you need to be just, and it must be in the interest of peace.
Did this reflect that?
Well, in a way, and I'll tell you how. Now, in Ikirun, a king was selected. There has been a lot of issues around that. Somebody, there has been a destruction of property and somebody lost his life. Now in Ire, they still have a case in court as to the ownership in that town. You see, when you look at that, there's justification for your action. But you don't need an executive for that because the chief law of the state is there. You are the one giving them a staff of office. If you realize there has been any issue around their selection, you have the right to tell them that, look, step aside.
And you were speaking before the break with regards to the appointment of the monarchs, what has happened to the monarchs, especially with the one in Ire and Ikirun, about the issues surrounding, their appointments, and that the governor he is the one that is going to issue the staff of office, and so he didn't need an executive order. No, so basically, he is putting the cart before the horse. So
definitely, that's what he's doing. And also, I think he hasn't had the benefit of good legal advice. That's my view. Because don't forget, they don't have an attorney general yet. But having said that, this is a man who has been to various courts in the land. So he has his friends as lawyers. He has lawyers which he has used in the past. He should have reached out to them and not allow the political gladiators to be telling him this is what you do as soon as you get in, do this, do that. And you don't want to start your government on a controversial note. What you need to do, first of all, you need to identify with the people, you need to identify what are the issues, and you need to carry them along. And this issue about executive order, let me just mention it for the benefit of your viewers. You see, you cannot use executive orders to make the law. That is not what you should
Because
do.
I was going to ask, at what point do you use an executive order?
Yes, the point you need to use it. You see, it comes within the territory. You can use executive order to carry out the business of governance. You can use executive order to give directive. You can use executive order to give command. And it is what the executive do. And it's primarily used mostly in the United States, although President Buhari has issued so many executive orders than any other president. But the fundamental point is that, you see, in a presidential system of government, there is a distinction, there is a separation of power. Parliament, the legislator are the ones who makes the law. And that is why it's on a coalition course with the Osun state legislators now, where they are saying, look, this issue about the state of Osun, this and that, there is a legislative provision that back it up. And what do legislators do? They make the law, they repeal the law, they amend the law. If you have issues, I understand where it's coming from that, look, there is nothing like state of Osun. It's not recognized in the Constitution.
Absolutely.
And there has been, and what he's even saying, that's why this governor is just on a frolic of his own for some reason. There is a court judgment.
Yes.
2 years ago, nullifying this state of Osun appellation. So once you know that is there, what is the point of signing the executive order? Because you have a court judgment, and the court said, no, you can't do that. It's invalid. That is your justification to say, look, this is my decision. You see, when you come into government, there is nothing wrong in coming up with policies, because policy is a statement of action. What you need to do is that, look, we are reversing to Osun State, not based on the judgment of Justice XYZ. And then with that, what is the point of signing the executive order? And if you realize what the legislator are saying, that, look, we have a law that says this, and if the court has said, no, that law cannot have effect, you don't need the legislator. But even for the sake of argument, you can go to them and say, look, you need to amend this law so that we can reverse back to Osun State. Yeah. That is what you need to do. Don't be dishing out executive order, this and that. I understand some lawyers will argue, and I take their point, that even though executive order is not defined in the Constitution, even if you look at the Nigeria Interpretation Act of 2004, so there is no definition of executive order. Okay. But if you look at Section 5 of the Constitution, it is there. The president, the state governor, they have enormous power. And in order to carry out their function, they can issue order, they can issue directives, they can issue memoranda that this is how it is going to be done. Take, for instance, the president signed this executive order 5, that we have an act made by the National Assembly called the Public Procurement Act. Yeah. Now, thereafter, the president now signed an executive order 5 that, look, when you are dealing with any procurement, you must give preference to Nigerian company. Now, that is in the interest of yourself and myself, and that is in the public interest. There is nothing wrong with that. So sometimes you use the executive order in order to bring the law into effect or make the law to be very effective. And even the Constitution in Nigeria, by Section 315 of the Constitution, let me just say that the appropriate authority, federal state government, may at any time, by order, make such modification in the text of any existing law. That means, and it goes on and on, that means that, look, if you have a law, any existing law, the president can come up with executive order to bring that law into effect and make it more effective. Yeah. If the law in the country says that if you live in Nigeria for 10 years, you can get Nigerian nationality, there is nothing wrong in the president making an executive order to say that for you to get it, this is what you must do. You must not have committed an act against the Nigerian state. You must show proof that you have. You see, he's doing that. He can sign an executive order to bring that law into effect. And what Governor Adeleke is doing is that, you see, this is the point. There's no point going on a fishing expedition. Once you have a court order, and you know a court has, look at the issue related to Osun State Independent Electoral Commission. Yes. Now, the court has ruled that that election conducted to the local government election also conducted is invalid. Yes. That is it. That is the decision. They said they are going to launch an appeal, but the executive secretary said they are not appealing anything. So which means that election is invalid. He has the right to ask all of them to return their certificate of return because the court has ruled the election invalid. So what is the point of signing an executive order when you already have a court judgment in your favor? That's why I said the governor is just going on a fishing expedition.
So all you have to do is to exhaust every legal avenue.
And also, there is another point I'd like to make, because some of them are saying, yes, when the court said, look, you cannot change the state of Osun, it has to be Osun. And some of the legislators, the argument is that they've already put a notice of an appeal. Now, that is wrong, because you see, the fact that you put a notice of appeal does not mean render that judgment invalid. Right. Okay? Because what people will do is this, and you do see that always. If a lower court gives a judgment that you must demolish this building, And then people go to court the next day, they quickly file an appeal form, take it to the registrar, and get it stamped. Now, this is an executory judgment that the building must be demolished, okay? Now, the fact, then they come to you and say, oh, we have put in an appeal. Does that mean we cannot demolish? No, you must get a state of execution, that we must not execute that judgment. And if you don't make that application promptly, we can go ahead and demolish the building. There is nothing wrong with that. So people just use this notice of appeal. But in certain cases, you can say, well, since they've put in the appeal, let's just calm down. Or you put the other lawyer on notice that if you don't get a stay within the next 14 days, we are going to move, okay? So what they are arguing that, excuse me, it's over 2 years since they put the notice of appeal. They did not pursue it vigorously. You now have a new governor coming in and saying, this is what I'm going to do. And you are now referring to the notice you put. So that means you've been sleeping all along. And it doesn't work that way. So the nut and bolt of my submission is that this governor needs to tread carefully. And you see, because the moment you start using executive order, some people will start reading other meanings that you are using it to bypass parliament. And parliament is there to make the law.
Do you think that is what is happening? Because those who are present there at the state of in the parliament there are members of the APC and not the PDP, and he perhaps feels that he will not get their buy-in into whatever the decision he would make.
That is a reasonable assumption, because definitely those people, some of the majority of them are APC members, majority of them were in that parliament when all these laws were made. If you go to them now and say, look, I want to do this, definitely you won't get their support. But in this case, there is no point, because at the end of the day, you are the governor of the state. You are the one who, you know, that state has been very controversial when it comes to non-payment of pensioner, non-payment of salary.
But his predecessor did not have those issues.
Yes, his predecessor. I'm talking about the Aregbesola regime. Yes. You see all these aged women protesting, singing in front of government house. But to Oyetola credit, he managed those situations very well. But the point is this: if this new governor, I know they are not happy they lost the election, but that is the people's decision. But if this governor really wants to run a successful administration, he needs to put his eye on the ball. And what he is saying, which I do agree with him, is that some of these your elections, some of these your actions, appointment, selection, and what have you, at the twilight of your administration, you are trying to make things very difficult for me. And once I get in, what I will need to do is to clear this table so that I can run a successful administration. Right. That comes within the territory.
The timing, some have said he should have perhaps consulted with a number of persons, perhaps the State House of Assembly, to look at how they can handle the issue of this name change, and consulted with a lot of persons. And with regards to the sacking of the 12,000 workers, he mentioned in his 5-point agenda that he was going to look into the welfare of workers and pensioners, and now we are having this 12,000 person sack. Is there a better way he could have handled this matter?
Yes, but you can't blame him. You still blame Governor Oyetola also. He has his own fair share of the blame. Because you see, when you lose an election, that was on July 17, if my memories have me right.
Right.
And you know there's going to be an incoming
governor.
What you do at that stage is to work in cooperation with that governor. Either you set up a transition committee who will liaise with him. Most of these issues we are discussing here, they will have ironed it out among themselves. And since he won that election, have you seen Governor Oyetola taking Governor Adeleke around the government house?
Not at all.
Not at all. Now, cast your mind back. In United States, when President Obama won the election, he and his wife visited the White House, and they were well received by, I think it's Junior Bush. Yes, and they took them around. This is it. There will be a discussion thereafter, the transition committee. You see, if Governor Oyetola has done that, maybe we won't be here, because there's supposed to be a meeting between the incoming governor and the outgoing governor.
Absolutely.
And there you will have explained to him, I recruited these people. The reason why we did that is because of this and that. And then he will have asked you a question, how am I going to pay them? Then
there budgetary allocation
for them, then, there will be a discussion. You may be able to tap into his experience. That has nothing to do with the legal challenge going on at the tribunal, okay? Because if later on, if you win, you probably come back. If you don't, good luck to you. But the point is this, that is the decision of the people of that state. You are supposed to liaise with him and work, and we need to stop this mess. Because you will recall, even in Ogun State, Governor Amosu did not even properly hand over to Dapo Abiodun, but to his credit, he set up a transition committee. So what the committee did, they prepared a report and left it on the table for the new governor, that when you come in, it's there. Everything is there. And, there are a lot of hue and cry along the line when they said this and that. And one of them said, look, if you refer to our report, you will see everything. You see, that is bad politics. Are you with me? That is bad politics. What you are supposed to do is for the two of you, if you really have the interests of the people at heart, to work together. I know there is a transition. You don't want to get into
irrespective of political affiliation.
Irrespective of political affiliation. And the worst thing is that Governor Amosu was even in the APC, although he was suspended along the line. And you can't even hand over to an incoming APC governor properly. So, it's not supposed to be.
Right.
And that is something we need to look at. The outgoing governor and the incoming governor, they must all work together. They must visit the White House in the interest of the state, in the interest of the people, and to avoid this executive order here and there. Because this is something they will have discussed among themselves, that, look, this is how much is in the treasury. If you have questions, your team will ask questions, and they will answer. In which case, as soon as you hit the ground running after the swearing-in ceremony, you have a template to work with. And this Governor Adeleke didn't enjoy that, because his accusation has been that, look, they've been setting trap for him, they did not cooperate with him, they put a lot of stumbling block along the line. But the people have decided this is the person we want as our governor for now, irrespective of the legal challenge that is going on. So you cannot blame the governor if he's now taking this decision because he said, look, I've seen the handwriting on the wall. You want to make things difficult for me. And for people who are saying, well, you should have mellowed down a bit, it's too early, it's a bit hasty. I agree, it may well be. But if you have an unpopular decision to take, you better take it as soon as you get into government. Because after a while, people will forget about it. But if you leave it till later, it will affect your electoral fortune if you are not careful. So what the governor is doing is to say, look, I know this is unpopular. Now let me quickly take the decision. And the people who have been sacked, they too, look, let me even tell you, I even saw one of them recently from that state of Osun. I think they were employed as a contractor to be collecting some local taxes here and there. And the guy told me that, a new government is coming. They will terminate that contract as they come in. And all of us working for that contractor, we will lose our job. That's why I'm now looking for opportunity to leave the country. Okay, so some of them too, who are recruited, they are not ignorant of the fact that the new governor may not accept that appointment. So, but with two minds, they have a letter, maybe they have an argument, but if the proper procedure is not followed, then the governor has the right to sack them. You don't need any executive order. And the way things are going now, you learn from your mistake as you go along. What happened is this. For now, let the governor concentrate on his 5-point agenda so that the people will know there's a new sheriff in town. And forget all this, if you dagger me, I tackle you, that is going on. So that the people will know that, well, they have a new government. It's just unfortunate my party didn't really make any good showing. I would have preferred an NNPP candidate as the governor, but, there's no point flogging a dead dog. That is a dead issue now. So we need to move forward.
Right. Now, the outgoing governor Adegboyega Oyetola says that he left about 14 billion naira in the coffers for the state, and that and there are those who are wondering what you think if the current governor, talking about Adeleke, if he'll be able to boost the internally generated revenue of the state. Now he should have concentrated on looking at what he can do. Yes, he has a 5-point agenda to generate, boost the revenue of the state. Look at Osun, for instance, tourism and all of that to boost the revenue of the state instead of all of this that he's doing. Now, with regards to revenue, what would you like to see him do to generate more revenue for the state, if he can? Because they are saying that that's a big shoe he has to fill, 14 billion naira in the coffers of the state.
Well, he hasn't confirmed whether that 14 billion
Well, he
is
hasn't
there.
confirmed.
He hasn't confirmed it. That is the outgoing governor marking his own. You see, you have to be very careful of people marking their homework. You have an outgoing governor saying, look, I left this, I left that. Well, if we are going to believe that, the new governor has to confirm that. And historically, most of these governors, that has always been an issue between all of them. Because if you come in, you can say, I'm going to probe the outgoing government. He has not said that per se.
He said he's going to set up a
a committee, so he's saying it in another way.
Because there are allegations of corruption, according to him.
Yes, according to him. So what he's saying technically is that I'm going to look at everything holistically and take a decision, whether we have 14 billion or not. And it's not impossible. Don't forget, even Governor Obi, when he said something recently, that he left so a month or so, you see the outcry. Yes. People are saying, how come this and that? Well, let's leave that aside. So whether 14 billion is in the kitty or not, let the new governor confirm that. And he has done well by saying, I'm freezing all the state accounts. So if the 14 billion is still there. You see, and there's another thing you need to appreciate, Veronica. You see, some of these government officials, on the night before, when they are leaving, a lot of them, they just, I can't say whether theft. What they do, those who have cars, they will take it. Those who have been given accommodation, they will find a way around it so that they don't return it to government. They do all sorts of things, and it's not impossible. That's what this governor seems to be concerned about, that the night before or the week
that was
before,
why he froze the account.
That was his decision. And that is a good decision to take at this stage so that he can look at things in the round. Because some of them, that's what they do. Once they are leaving government and they know the new administration is coming. So whether we need to amend the new constitution, once you win the election and you are the incoming governor, we need to find a way so that you take the seat of government. There won't be any opportunity for people just to, pilfering, we call it, and start stealing government assets here and there. As to the IGR of that state, well, you need the money to run the government. What will come from the federation account will not be enough. And also, if you are in government, you promise little and deliver big. If you start promising heaven and earth and you don't deliver on those mandates, well, it will affect your electoral fortune in future. And that state has a lot of potential. What I want that governor to concentrate on is tourism, how it's going to make sure that they turn that state into tourist attraction. There is also the mining issue, which is still going on.
Gold.
And in Elisha as is also, then he needs to tap into that as well. And at the same time, he needs to know that you need competent people. The problem I have with some of these governors, I'm not saying we must not reward political loyalty, but there are some sensitive positions. You don't just put people there because they are carrying member of your party or they were going in the trenches and supporting you. You need to look at their competence, okay? And make sure, if you know that this sector affects the people of the state, you must look for a competent person. You cannot ask the plumber to be the commissioner for health in the state because the plumber was able to give pure water to all your electorate. What we end up is that it's going to be a disaster. So there are some sensitive ministries, sensitive positions. You need to look for competent people. And the governors need to do that. And, this governor, for some reason, he has some admirable qualities. You know, they threw a lot of plank at him
Yes.
before getting to this position.
Yes.
And now, he is so determined to become the governor. And fortune has smiled on him. He's now the governor. So what you need to do, forget whatever has happened in the past and concentrate on governance and concentrate on how the people in that state will get the dividends of democracy. And also, what I even noticed is that some of them, consultation is also important. You see, when misinformation, you need to manage it. Because some years ago in this country, when you go into people's houses, there is this big radio, I think it's from WNTV, they call it. Every evening they turn it, all the tenants and everybody, they listen to news, they know what government is. You see, when people are in the dark, if they don't even have radio to know what the government is doing, and radio is not their priority now. So you can just say, look, how do we get information to the people so that they know? So you carry them along. Once you carry them along, there won't be misinformation. Because otherwise, even in your nuclear organization, you will see workers saying, we don't even know what management is doing. We don't know. It's because they are not being informed. And after a while, once they start carrying that rumor, we don't know what management is going to boil down to. One day they will carry placard. And then one thing will lead to another. And if care is not taken, the branch will go. So it is very important for this governor to carry people along. It's very important for him to consult, and it's very important for him to keep his eye on the ball and make sure he delivers on this 5-point agenda. That's the way to go, and that's my take.
Now, there are those, again, who think that if he continues this way, that there are tendencies for him to be impeached and kicked out of government. What do you say to them?
Well, I don't think that's another thing they need to be very careful of. Because don't forget, there are people who are still not happy with his victory. Some are in court. At the same time, there are some who will be engaging in some scheme-mongering tactics to make sure that they get that mandate back one way or the other. So what you need to do is to be careful not to give such people a platform. And if they come and they criticize you, criticism comes with that part of the territory, okay? And criticism can help you to develop too, because it's good for people to see what you are doing, okay? Clients come, they criticize you, they say something. Some of them just want sorry from you. Some of them just want you to acknowledge why they are unhappy. Then you do it and move on. But by the time you engage in a dog fight, you will see that you will get bogged down, and time is going. And time flies when people are having fun. When you are working, time doesn't move because you just be looking. Well, you know, I work as a security guard in London some years back, and it will get to a stage you just feel the clock is not moving at all because we are working. But when you are having fun, we are dancing, you just, I don't know, the time has gone. So what he needs to do is just to concentrate at the task at hand. Okay? If it's about dancing, he has danced enough now, and he has danced himself to victory now. What we now need to do is about governing that state and giving the people the dividends of democracy. And if there's any attempt to impeach him, you know how they do it. One day you might wake up and they lock up the State House of Assembly. Somebody is going to take the mass and disappear. So, you know, they have a way of doing it to avoid such impeachment. But for now, I don't think there is any need, because don't forget, as time goes by, most of those members of the State House of Assembly, some of them will cross to his party as time goes by. That's what they do. So what he needs to do is to see the Speaker of that House, have a roundtable discussion, and make sure, because the people want the dividends of democracy, they don't want conflict.
We'll leave the conversation there now. We must thank you, public affairs analyst and Ogun West NNPP senatorial candidate, Oluwafemi Aino. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.